All right, it started. So how long is the trip for?
Just a couple days. I'm leaving Sunday night. I come back Wednesday.
Okay, so if anybody's just started listening, Josh is going to England to see a football game on the dollar of DraftKings.
Yep. Thanks very much, DraftKings. I sent them some juice this week to say extra special thank you. But Liverpool, I'm going to see Liverpool take out Roma in the semifinals at Anfield on Tuesday. I know Rob's probably jealous.
All right, I tweeted out the link. Let's give people a couple seconds to come in. We're at 2 people right now, which is obviously me and you.
I mean, it's a beautiful day. I wouldn't be watching the show right now.
Let's go to the YouTubes. Retweet this link. Or not retweet it, put out the link in Slack.
Put it in our chat.
And when you come back from the trip?
Wednesday.
You're saying it wrong, stupid.
But that's how it's spelled.
All right, the link is out. We're up to, okay, we've got a few more people up. Somebody left. Not happy with your trip.
Wow. They must really not like my England.
Yeah, a couple people joined in. They just left. All right, let's start talking about the games anyway. So we have pretty decent-sized slate. We have some decisions to make because there's some good high-end pitching options, and there's also a game in Coors Field. So obviously the opportunity cost of rostering the hitters in Coors Field means you can't pay up for pitching. The opportunity cost of paying up for pitching means that you can't roster the hitters at Coors Field. So a couple of expensive options, 3 expensive options. Now we have Jacob deGrom pitching at Atlanta, Steven Strasburg against the Dodgers, Chris Sale against Oakland. So of those 3 pitchers, Josh, who do you think is the strongest to pay up for?
Well, on almost every slate that this guy is a part of, I will tend to choose him as my top pitching option. So obviously the only real question with this guy is how much he costs, but Chris Sale's clear-cut number 1. Steven Strasburg, I would put ahead of Jacob deGrom as my number 2 tonight, however, because that's a little closer. Do you agree, or what are your thoughts? You're a huge Chris Sale fan.
Amongst the high-end guys, I think that Sale is such a stronger option than the other 2 that it's hard to justify using either Strasburg or Jacob deGrom. I wouldn't have either of them in my player pool. I think it's really just Chris Sale for me, and he's somebody who I would also have in all my lineups. So FanDuel, I would only roster Chris Sale. DraftKings, he would be my starting pitcher 1 in every single lineup. Sale is about as consistent as any starting pitcher could possibly be. Everybody has a bad game from time to time, but Sale had so few poor games last year, and he's underpriced for what his production was last year. 28 fantasy points per start. He's at 12,000, so only 24 for him to hit value. So you'd expect him to be about 14,000 in a neutral matchup. And the A's, as much as they've been a decent offense this year, the reality is that they're better against righties than they are against lefties. They strike out a ton against left-handed pitching. So there's a lot of upside for Chris Sale in this matchup. And also, Oakland plays as a favorable pitcher's park. So high end, I think Chris Sale is the guy to target. I really like him a lot tonight. And then we kind of move into some of these mid-tier options. There's a lot of decent starting pitchers. We've got Dallas Keuchel, Zach Godley, Yu Darvish, James Paxton, Hyun-Jin Ryu, who's been pitching very well recently but was not particularly good last year. Is there anybody that stands out to you from this tier of the pitchers?
I think my eyes first went to Zach Godley. How does that sound to you? Godley, I think he's probably about very close to what he should be price-wise, but it's a plus matchup. And no, I mean, I guess it's in Arizona, so it's probably about a neutral matchup. What would you say here?
Yeah, I really like the matchup for Godley. So the Padres are a little bit better of an offense than they've been recently just because Will Myers is back from the DL and he's one of their better hitters. But there's still the humidor. We don't really know exactly what its effects are going to be this year, except it seems like it's going to make it Arizona at least a little bit stronger of a pitcher's park. And then either way last year, Godley was just a really good pitcher at home, even when it was a really strong hitting environment. So bring up Godley's numbers from last season when he pitched at Chase Field. He had uh, 3.45 ERA. I'm trying to bring up it. Okay, here we go. He had a 3.45 ERA, 3.77 FIP. He struck out nearly 10 hitters per 9 innings. I think that Godley, for his price against the Padres, who, even though they're going to be a better offense than they were last year, they should still be a fairly favorable matchup for starting pitchers. They strike out an above average rate. So I like the spot for Godley. My favorite pitching combination on the slate is definitely Chris Sale and Zach Godley. And I think there are other pitchers that are worth considering, but these are my 2 favorite options. So do you have any opinion on Ryu for tonight? Because he started the year really poorly, and he was bad last year, but he's been really strong his last couple of starts. Do you have any interest in him tonight?
I mean, look, excuse me. I don't not have interest in him because of him starting the year a little poorly, but I don't have interest in him because I don't like the matchup. I don't ever like to target teams against Washington, even though they're probably a little bit worse against lefties than righties. Is that true? Can you back me up on that or no? The Washington offense.
Yeah, I'm going to bring them up really quick. Just keep talking.
Yeah, but either way, I just think Godley's too close in price for it to really honestly, truth is, if I didn't take Godley, I would go down to Garrett Richards. So I don't think I'll have much for you tonight unless it's literally to kind of takes for the ownership. I don't think he'll be very highly owned given the options around him.
Yeah, I definitely like Richards a decent amount too. I think we're going to like him for a lot of the same reasons. High strikeout rate. It's not a great matchup against the Giants, except it's still a decent one. Richards is striking out more than a hitter per inning this year. And I think that the Giants are probably going to be better against left-handed pitching than right-handed pitching. Guys like Buster Posey, Evan Longoria, McCutchen, all better hitters against lefties than righties. So I like the spot for Richards. Are those kind of the similar reasons that you like him?
Yep. Sorry. 1 second. My dog must have eaten something this morning. He's
well, I would hope so. I would hope your dog eats something
that doesn't agree with his stomach. But it's okay. He's a trooper. He'll be all right. It's rather him throw up outside than inside. But anyway, can you please repeat what you were saying? I apologize. I missed that last. Oh, yeah. Are we talking about Richards still?
Yeah, basically, I like Richards. You like Richards. It's all good. The Washington Nationals. They've struggled against left-handed pitching this year. They have a 78 WRC plus against lefties. That's 26 in baseball. They have one of the highest strikeout rates in the league against lefties. The only real issue I have with Ryu is that I think he's going to regress a little bit. And I just think that the other guys in that price range, I prefer Zach Godley, I prefer Garrett Richards to him. Really, for me, the only 3 pitchers that I want to roster tonight are Richards, Godley, and Chris Sale. And the order I want exposure to them is in their price, is what their prices are. Sale number 1 for me, Godley 2, Richards 3. Is it the same for you? And are there any other pitchers that you like for the slate?
Same for me. The only other guy I like, I think it's a little too expensive, it's James Paxton. I don't think Texas hits lefties very well. And, he's really rounding into form this year. He just had a great start against Houston. He's 3 or 4. Let me pull up his stats right now. 1 second. I think he's got about quality start at was that 3 straight quality starts. He just had a great win against Houston at home, but I think he's a little too pricey given the depth here with Richards and Godley. But I do like James Paxton for potentially a GPP pivot.
Yeah, I don't mind Paxton. I do think Paxton's really good. I think he's underpriced. As you also said, the Rangers do struggle against left-handed pitching. They're 28th in baseball. They're 73 WRC plus against lefties right now. Up towards the middle of the pack in strikeout rate, but I actually think that's going to go up because they struck out so much against lefties last year. The only issue I have with Paxton is the ballpark, number 1, being on the road, and then also just the opportunity cost of rostering him, where I prefer Godley and Richards. And I like Sale so much. And I think that the price on Paxton, even though it's slightly discounted, it's going to be really tough to build lineups with Sale and Paxton together. So I prefer to go with Sale and then one of the guys who are a little bit cheaper. I wouldn't mind Paxton as a play if I didn't like Chris Sale so much. Are there any other pitchers that you want to bring up for the slate before we move into the hitters?
No. I'm curious. What do you think Bartolo's ownership will be?
Very low.
All right, yeah. Just real quick to move on to hitters. For those watching and those who watch later, RotoPros.com. Check it out. We like to do this show as much as possible, 5, 6, 7 times a week, whatever we can. We hope it's helping, and anything we can do to make it better, let us know in the comments, email us, contact us, sign up. But you can get a whole lot more than just this when you join RotoPros.com, so check it out.
Yeah, you could be in our Slack chat where you could ask questions that we answer on the show. There are none right now, so that's why we're not answering any. We usually will take questions if they come up. So moving into the hitters, I think I kind of touched on my opinion on this a little bit because I said I like Chris Sale a lot, which means by default I can't really roster the hitters from the Coors Field game. So if you're to ask me which team is going to score the most runs tonight, it's going to be one of the teams from Coors Field on average. The issue is the opportunity cost of rostering the really expensive Cubs hitters means you can't roster Chris Sale, you can't roster the really expensive pitchers. And that's really how I prefer to build my lineups tonight, is going with Chris Sale, with the Garrett Richards or Zach Godley. And that's just not doable with the hitters at Coors Field. So as much as I think that they should score a decent amount of runs on average tonight, I think for their price tags, I don't really like them that much. So what do you make of the Coors Field game for this evening?
I think you said it perfectly. On a slate like this, you have to make a choice. There's not really many ways to take Sale and include the Coors stack or just exposure from Coors. I don't mind it for plugs. Particularly Javi Baez is hot lately.
That's just so much for me to pay for him. And also, I don't really care much about how people have been playing recently.
Yeah, no, I know. You don't believe in hot streaks. I'm not even saying he's worth taking. I'm looking at the game, honestly, now for the first time because I'm of the same opinion as you that it's just an easy choice to go with Sale tonight. And I love Godley and Richards. So when you spend, $20K on your pitchers, it's not very easy to attack a Coors stack unless it's like, I don't know, like Kershaw. No, not even. There's never a way to do it. So I was going to say Kershaw versus the Rockies, but even then. So to be honest, the only thing I disagree with you there is that I think the Angels are going to score more runs than either of those two teams in Coors tonight. Okay,
so what would be your case for that? I mean, for me, it's just the Coors Field effect.
Can you tell me the WRC plus for the Angels against lefties this year, please? And then let's talk about Derek Holland's stats. Pull that noise up.
The Angels are currently 9th in baseball in WRC plus at 107 against lefties. Derek Holland has been good this year. I do think he's going to be worse going forward. For me, the reason that I would expect more, I like the Angels better as a stack because of their prices than the Cubs, but I still expect the Cubs to score more runs. It's just that you can't play them with their prices. The Angels make more sense for what their salaries are. So go ahead on your thoughts on the Angels.
Yeah, I just don't think Derek Holland his numbers really line up with the type of pitcher he is. He's striking out way more batters per 9 than he has in his career. And I think the sample size isn't big enough for it to really. Oh no, sorry, it is big enough. It's what about 15 innings? So yeah, I just think his numbers are due for regression. And like you said, the Angels are a little cheaper than the Coors stack, so I'm all over them tonight. 9th in WRC plus against left-handed pitching, and I think that's only going to get better with the addition of people like Kinsler back from injury.
Yeah, I like Kinsler a good amount tonight. He's somebody actually, because you had said that you thought that Javi Baez can make sense to plug. One of the reasons I don't like Baez as much is he's 4,700, which is really expensive.
I was just looking at the lineup when I said that. That's crazy that he's that expensive. I had no idea.
So second baseman that are priced a little bit cheaper than him that I prefer, we have Ian Kinsler, who's probably going to be leading off for the Angels tonight. He's only 4,300. Then we have Robinson Cano, who's hitting third against Bartolo Colon. He's at 4,200. So I think both of them are pretty good plays. For Derek Holland this year, he does have a 4.6 ERA, but he's a 3.08 FIP, a 4.38 xFIP. Zips projects him for a 4.9 ERA this year, Steamer at 4.38. He's been about a replacement level player for, 5 years now. So I think that Holland is not good at all. I think it's a good spot for the Angels, who are going to be a strong offense this year. So I definitely like the Angels. The one thing that makes them a little tough is that Mike Trout is really expensive tonight. So it could be tough to build lineups with Trout and Sale together if some cheaper options don't become viable once lineups come out. But I think the output for the Angels is very high. They are one of my favorite stacks on the slate. My personal favorite stack is the Seattle Mariners. They're playing in Texas, so an upgrade in park factor for them. They're going up against Bartolo Colon. Colon's had a really good start to the season, and he pitched almost a perfect game against the Rangers last start, which is totally ridiculous.
Man in the MLB.
What was that?
He's the niftiest man in the MLB.
Yes, Josh likes to call him nifty. I think he has some other crafty. There's all kinds of adjectives for Bartolo Colon. The one I like to use is bad. So Bartolo Colon last year had a 6.48 ERA, a 5.21 FIP. Zips is projecting him for a 5 ERA this year. Steamer projects him for a 4.9 ERA. He's been very good this year. He's a 1.45 ERA, a 2.34 FIP. He's throwing strikes. He's striking guys out. The two-seamer looks good. He's not walking anybody. But I don't buy into it. He's been washed up for 5-6 seasons now. So the idea that Bartolo Colon is going to rediscover his game at age 45 or 44, he turns 45 soon, I don't really buy it. So Colon, I think, is a strong guy to target for a couple of reasons. Number one, the Mariners are fairly cheap tonight. We have D. Gordon's 4,000. Nelson Cruz 4,300. Robinson Cano, I brought up before, is 4,200. So it's really reasonable price tags on them. It's the plus upgrade in the park matchup. And I think that people might not be inclined to roster them tonight just because he was so good in his last start. What's that?
Because they know how good Bartolo is.
Yeah, exactly. That's the reason why. So what's your opinion on the Seattle offense tonight?
No, I'm just messing with you. I do agree. And you may mock me for this, but I like games where the humidity is over 80%. I just think that's a little bit of an added bonus for the offenses. So I do like Seattle tonight. Humidity is like 84. Bartolo isn't good. I'm just joking. I don't think it's like batting practice with him pitching as Greg does, but he's wily, he's savvy, he's a vet. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. This guy. So he's not just going to get embarrassed. We'll see what happens. Seattle's definitely in my top 3, but Angels.
So why do you think he was so bad last year?
Because he's old. He's due to get rocked soon. But it happens with like singles and doubles and triples. I don't really see Bartolo just giving up like 4 home runs. We'll see.
So the one hesitation I have with this game is right now there's a decent chance of thunderstorms. There is an opening to play later in the night if they have to start in a delay. So there's a 70% chance of thunderstorms earlier in the day. But then from like 9 o'clock on, there's nothing in the forecast. So it's kind of something to keep an eye on. What happens with the weather situation? Do the storms clear up? Does it look like it's going to hold longer? Because that could really impact the amount of the viability of this game if it looks like it could get canceled. So we always have to pay attention to the weather, and that's always subject to change. For right now, I think it should play. Other than that, there are no real weather concerns in the forecast. So quick question from Corb 450. If he's doing 20 lineups, does 20 Sale, 10 Richards, and 10 Godley make sense?
Doesn't mathematically make sense.
What was that?
I don't think that mathematically makes sense.
Why does that not mathematically make sense?
20 lineups total, and then he's going to have 40 lineups.
20 plus 10. No, that's 20. Because think, DraftKings use 2 pitchers, right?
Oh, sorry, my mistake. I read that wrong.
Okay, so yeah, I do think it makes sense. Personally, I'd probably be a little bit higher on Godley. But like not significantly. I would be like 20 Sale, like 12 Godley, 8 Richards. But yeah, I mean, 20, 10, 10 is also fine with me. Definitely Sale is the highest owned pitcher I am very okay with. So I hope that answers that question. It does, because it's a pretty straightforward question. So other offenses, who else are you looking at as potential offenses to target tonight, Josh?
I'll take a look at Houston, and I'll take a look at the Brewers. Jose Urena is not good. Let me pull up his fan graphs. But Milwaukee is heating up. They're good, plus matchup and definitely a hitter's ballpark. So let me just pull up Urena's stats to back up my point a little bit.
He's for sure hot garbage.
Yeah, he's awful. So what do we got here? Yeah, look, he's already I was gonna say he's overperforming, but that's not true at all. He just sucks, and he's been sucking. So 21 innings, definitely enough of a sample size. Guy gets some Ks, but other than that, 5.57 ERA, 4.24 FIP. Zip and Steamer both have him at 4.61, 4.69. So this is no anomaly. I expect Urena to remain awful. I don't have his fly ball rate or any of that in front of me right now, but I would imagine it's not good. So I will definitely take a look at Milwaukee tonight. I think a lot of people will be on. I think it'll be pretty chalky to take the Angels and Coors and the first couple teams we were discussing. So Milwaukee against a bad righty. Usually, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think people like to target Milwaukee against like pretty shitty left-handed pitching. So a bad righty like Urena, and Urena's kind of like deceiving because he's technically their number one, right? Their number.
I mean, not. I mean, he started on opening day for them. I mean, what qualifies as a number one now?
All right, so
the Houston Astros have the Houston Astros have like 5 number one pitchers.
Right, but not everyone's that lucky. But either way, who's better than him on Miami? Like Dylan Peters? Come
on. Maybe Richards. The entire pitching staff sucks. They have. If Houston has 5 number one pitchers, the Marlins have 5 number 6 starting pitchers.
I think that's an accurate assessment.
Okay, so I agree with you on Milwaukee. Upgrade in park factor. Jose Urena, not good. I think that the Astros should also do a lot of damage against Lucas Giolito, who is somebody who I've certainly targeted against before. The issue that I have with Houston, though, is also just the opportunity cost of rostering them. They're very expensive, so it makes them hard to stack together. Jose Altuve, 5,100 tonight. George Springer is 4,800. Carlos Correa hit 2 homers tonight. He's at 5,100. So I don't really think that you could use all of them together and get Sale into a lineup. If you really want to stack the Astros, though, I wouldn't be opposed to making a lineup with Godley and Richards as the pitchers and then stacking Houston. I think that's viable. It's not something that I'm doing tonight, but I don't take issue with that as a strategy. Other offenses that I'm looking at.
Definitely the Mets.
Yeah, so the Mets, I knew there was another one I had there. They're going up against Julio Teheran. Teheran was actually pretty solid in his last start. It was probably the best outing he's had in about 2 years. But either way, looking for the season, a 5.4 ERA, 6.39 FIP. Overall, he's worth negative 0.3 wins above replacement this year. That is bad. That means that he is basically a minor league level player at this point in his career. Bring up his velocity real quick. It's been down this year, and he wasn't throwing particularly hard last year. So he was somebody who came up into the league as a prospect who was throwing mid-90s. He was one of the highest regarding pitching prospects in the league. And then last year he saw his velocity dip to like the 92, 91 range. And now we're looking at his velocity at 89 to 91. So considering it got worse because his velocity went down last year and it went down even farther this year, I think the Mets make for good targets as well.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, his BABIP is 300, and he's leaving on 81% of runners. So for his ERA to still be 5.5, you can only imagine what it would be like if a few more of those balls snuck through, and the people he led on base actually came through to score. So Zips and Steamer have this guy 4.58, 4.83. So again, this is no surprise. You just said it perfectly. He was bad last year, and his velocity continued to get even worse and slower. So I don't expect anything like like you said, anyone can have a good start every now and then. Everyone can have a bad start. So Teheran pitched really well last time. Hats off. But baseball is a game of numbers, and I don't expect that to continue.
Yeah. So last start, he was 6 innings, 9 strikeouts, 3 walks, only gave up 1 run. It was a solo home run. That'll probably be his best start of the season. I would be pretty surprised.
Against like the Nationals too? It was like against their tough team.
The Phillies. Oh. So it wasn't like an easy matchup, but it wasn't like some ridiculously difficult matchup either. But I would call that fluky. I would call Bartolo Colon's last start equally. Probably actually that's even flukier. Really quick, because some lineups have come out. There's a couple players I like as plugs. So even though I said I think the Cubs are a little bit too expensive to stack, we have Albert Almora is leading off for them at 3,000. He really hits left-handed pitching extremely well. And Coors game, only 3,000. I think that he is probably the best value play on the slate. Some other cheap guys. Chris Young recently has been batting towards the middle of the lineup for the Angels against left-handed pitching. Actually, no, it's not sure. He hit 8th last game. But either way, so Chris Young in the starting lineup against Derek Collin is not a good lefty. I like him at 2,700. Other guys, I think we're just going to kind of have to wait to see when the rosters come out just so we can find whatever cheap guys are towards the top of the lineup. I think all of the Mariners guys make for good values. Is there anybody else who stands out to you as of now?
No, Young and Almora are definitely my top 2 as well. Adrian Beltre hits Paxton pretty well, so if you do like, again, I laugh every time I say that because I know how little Matt and Greg think of sample sizes under 250, which no one has. So, but obviously limited sample. Adrian Beltre is hitting 529 off of Paxton, 17 at bats. It's like 8 for 17, so or 9 for 17, whatever. So it's nothing crazy, but I always consider that a small bump. So if you are listening to Greg and stacking Seattle, you don't have to run it. I won't even say that because it doesn't make much sense to run it back in baseball. But Beltre is cheap. He's 3,300 for the 4-hitter with good numbers off a guy in a humid ballpark. So righty lefty. Beltre is not the worst plug if you get stuck in that situation. I think Gene Segura definitely will be a mid 4K, low 5. I think he'll be a high to mid 4K player sooner rather than later. So I just righty lefty. I don't care. I think he's very underpriced, especially given the matchup.
Yeah, I mean that's how I feel about all of the Mariners hitters today. So no other questions for us right now. Any final thoughts on the slate for tonight?
No, I think it's pretty straightforward. Take one of the big guys. I'll be taking a lot of Sale. If you make me fade Sale somehow, just out of a question, I would probably go with Strasburg. I don't think I'll have many Richards Godley lineups tonight. I think most of it will just be Sale, kind of what Rob just asked. If there's 20 lineups, it'll be half 10 Richards, 10 Godley, 20 Sale. So, but yeah, don't get too cute. Holland's pretty bad, so if you're not going to take an Angel stack, definitely try and plug, Upton, maybe Kinsler as well. That's it for me. What about you, Greg?
All right, so that is going to wrap up this show. You can follow the RotoPros on Twitter at, RotoPros DFS. You can follow me on Twitter at GErenbergDFS. You could also go to rotopros.com and sign up for a subscription to the website, get access to the Slack chat where we answer people's questions, kind of just go through strategies, any final thoughts we have. We have all kinds of content and so much more. Also, we cover all sports. We got baseball, basketball, football, both footballs, MMA. So you could check that out at rotopros.com. Everybody have a good weekend.
Thank you.